Today we are going to be studying our solar system. Our learning objectives. After this lesson, you will be able to describe bodies in our solar system, explain the interactions of the bodies in our solar system, describe the seasons of the Earth, and explain the lunar phases of the Moon. Our academic vocabulary. The Earth, which is the planet on which we live. A moon is a naturally formed body that orbits the Earth or orbits other planets. The sun is the star around which the Earth orbits. Seasons, each of the 4 divisions of the year. Lunar phases, the amount of the moon we see illuminated over a month. And interactions, that is actions that happen between objects, such as our planets and the sun, our planets and the moon, our planets and each other. So the solar system consists of the sun and everything that orbits or travels around the sun. This includes the 8 planets and their moons, dwarf planets, countless asteroids, comets, and other small icy objects. As we can see, Mercury being closest to the sun, and the planets extend out away from the sun. Our planets are sometimes called classical planets. We have dwarf planets such as Pluto and Charon, plus 2003 UB sub 318, Ceres, and there are other dwarf planets and asteroids and comets within our solar system. The sun. Our sun is actually a star. The temperature of the sun is about 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. It is made up of elements hydrogen and helium. It's called a dwarf star, and the reason it's called a dwarf star is because our sun is relatively small compared to other suns throughout other solar systems in our universe, and that we have 8 planets that orbit or move around our sun. The planets. The 8 planets that move around the sun are, from the closest to the furthest out, Mercury, Venus, Earth, the planet on which we live, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Now this old graphic kind of shows Pluto down over here. When Pluto's not really considered a planet anymore, it's considered a dwarf planet. But as you can see, the rest of the planets that orbit our sun, they are all named for Roman gods, with the exception of Earth. Earth comes from an Old English or Old Germanic word that means dirt or soil. Makes sense, right? So, interactions. The planets orbit or move around the sun. Earth, the planet on which we live, is the 3rd closest planet to the sun. The Earth has 1 moon that orbits it. The moon affects our tides in the ocean and causes high tides and low tides. Other planets have moons too. Mars has 2, Jupiter has 95, Saturn 146, Uranus 27, and Neptune 14. The planets closest to the sun are hottest, of course, because they're closest to the 27 million degrees Fahrenheit sun. And the further away from the sun, the colder the planets become. Now, the Earth's movement around our sun is what causes our seasons, and we'll look at those next. Seasons. As a year passes, regular changes occur in the weather. The cycle of weather changes is divided into 4 parts, known as seasons. The 4 seasons are winter, spring, summer, and autumn. A lot of times we call it fall, because that's when the leaves start falling from the trees, right? So the Earth's tilted axis causes the seasons. The Earth doesn't sit straight up and down. It's kind of tilted on its axis, as you can see from this picture, and rotates around the sun that way. Now, Earth's tilted axis causes the seasons. Throughout the year, different parts of the Earth receive the sun's most direct rays. So when the North Pole tilts toward the sun, it's summer in the northern hemisphere, which is where we live. And when the South Pole is tilted toward the sun, it's winter in the northern hemisphere. So as you can see from December, how the northern hemisphere is moving further away it's tilted further away from the sun. So that's why it's winter in North America, and it'll be summer in the southern hemisphere, which includes Australia, South America, those parts. And as you can see further down where it says June, you can see that the northern hemisphere is tilted more toward the sun. So that's why we have summer starting in June. And below the southern hemisphere, down in South America and Australia and places like that, they will experience winter. The phases of the moon. The moon does not emit or give off light itself. The moonlight we see is actually the sun's light reflected off the surface of the moon, or the lunar surface. So as the moon orbits the Earth, we can see a different amount of the moon is lit by the sun from our perspective on Earth. Sometimes the moon is completely lit, and other times it's completely dark. The illuminated shape of the moon is visible from Earth is called a phase. So as you can see in phase 1, the new moon, the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, so all we see, well, we don't see anything because all we get is the dark portion of the moon. But as the moon starts to move around, phases 2, waxing crescent, to first quarter moon, around to waning gibbous, and then to the full moon, as you can see, the sun is bouncing off of the moon completely, so that's when we see the full round moon during the full moon. And as the phases start coming back around, waning gibbous, the last quarter moon, and the waning crescent moon is the last of the 8 phases. So as the moon moves around, we see different parts of the moon based on where the sun is reflecting off that part of the moon. And that takes about a month. That's about a 30-day cycle that the moon moves around the Earth. So let's think about some things we just learned. What are the bodies in our solar system? How do the bodies in our solar systems interact? What are the seasons on Earth? And what do we mean by phases of the moon? So the planets in our solar system orbit the sun. The Earth has one moon that orbits it, and it affects the tides. Our moon has 8 phases, from the new moon, which is the dark moon, to the waning crescent, which is that little sliver of moonlight we can see towards the end of the month. And the Earth has 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and autumn, or fall. So it's quiz time. Please go to the link below, take the quiz, and let me know how you do. Thank you.